Welcome to Ethiopia, a landlocked country that lies in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia is quite famous for its diverse food culture. The country has both bustling industrial cities as well as rural mountainous landscapes. Ethiopia is commonly regarded as the birthplace of Christianity and is known as the oldest civilization of Africa, with more than 25 centuries of documented history. What you are looking at now are the ruins of the ancient civilization that was known as the Queen of Sheba's most favorite city. This is Ethiopia's capital, a city known as Addis Ababa. The market in Addis Ababa is one of the largest markets in all of Africa. I was given the opportunity to interview 3 Ethiopians, Bezawit, Surafel, and his wife, C. That's them. We discussed the diverse culture around food in their country. And in this documentary, I will explain how this important cultural aspect of Ethiopia is currently being affected by food insecurity and rising food prices. There are approximately 109 million people residing in Ethiopia, making it the second most populated country in the African continent. Bezawit started off by informing me that Ethiopia is a highly ethnically and religiously diverse place. This huge diversity of the country translates well into the many popular and unique foods of Ethiopia. What you are looking at now is from a video Bezawit sent me off the internet that tours the lively Addis Ababa market, and this is it after 4 o'clock in the morning. Bezawit told me that those living in cities in Ethiopia enjoy more ethnically diverse food because there's more cultural exchange there. But in rural areas of the country, people do not have many different cultural experiences other than that of their own communities. So rural dwellers tend to eat food from within their own cultures. Surafel and his wife C are from the city, and I asked them whether they do find that they eat diverse foods, which they agreed to and said that the city is full of so many different ethnic restaurants, and that the two were actually waiting on a favorite of theirs, Indian food, to be delivered for dinner. I then asked my new Ethiopian friends what the typical means of collecting food in Ethiopia include, and this is when Surafel passed the camera to his wife C, because as he said, she does all the shopping. It is actually quite common in Ethiopia for women to do all of the cooking and shopping. Writing my questions for the interview posed a challenge for me because I was cautious to not word my questions to sound too generalizing of Ethiopians or ignorant of the country's experience. C actually politely informed me that my question was a bit generalizing of Ethiopians, and she addressed how urban Ethiopians live very differently from rural Ethiopians, and that there is no typical means of acquiring food, which my friend Bezawit confirmed. They both said that in the cities, markets tend to be the main resources for gathering food. However, in rural areas, people mostly farm some of their food, while purchasing some grain and flours from the store to make the common dish injera. Sometimes they'll even purchase popcorn, coffee beans, and chickpeas to enjoy. This video, which Bezuit sent me, shows how Ethiopians make injera, and it's quite simple. The cook just mixes powder and water into a liquid form and cooks it on what is called a mitad, or a griddle. It looks quite satisfying and reminds me of pancakes. Injera is quite commonly consumed all across Ethiopia and is known as a staple food. From an anthropological article, I learned that history has a lot to do with Ethiopian struggle with food insecurity. Years ago, rural lands were divided up by the government and given out to families based on their number of family members, with the one rule that if the family wanted to keep their land, they had to farm on it and produce crops to be sold. But common droughts made producing enough crops difficult. Many families' only option, similar to what Bezuit and C told me, is to go out and purchase a few items for their family to eat while selling most of their crops. This food insecurity doesn't just happen in rural Ethiopia, it's also in the city, and it's affecting more than just people's stomachs. It's affecting their social lives and the rituals that are important to Ethiopian culture and identity. When Surafel learned I was doing a project on Ethiopian food, he was most eager to tell me about Ethiopian coffee and the ritualistic ceremony that comes along with it. It's said that coffee's energizing properties were first discovered in Kaffa, an Ethiopian region, which is where the name coffee comes from. Coffee ceremonies are a very important aspect of Ethiopian culture, and it is done in the city and farmlands alike. It's a very social and sacred ritual for the communities, and it allows people to connect with one another. Surafel says that these ceremonies are usually performed by the women of the families, but that he has been making coffee since he was a child. He explained the steps of the ritual to me, saying that first, those involved in the ceremony usually wear white. Then they must light incense because they will be grinding coffee beans, and the smell is quite strong, but it can also be hallucinogenic if not covered up with another smell. He compared Ethiopian coffee bean grinding to the psychic practice of reading tea leaves, which can tell someone's future by the arrangement of leaves in the cups. He did not give any more details or dive deep into what happens during the hallucinations, but offered that the incense can help minimize them and that they also ward off evil spirits that may try to enter the ceremony. Now the beans must be cleaned very well and then roasted. It's the roasting process that actually gives coffee beans their dark brown color. Next, the roasted beans are grounded with a mortar, which is a bowl, and a pestle, a rounded-edged tool. The groundings are mixed into boiling water, and that's it. The ceremony is often done in front of friends and family, and the aroma is usually appreciated by all. It is even encouraged that the bean roaster goes around to everyone at the ceremony and allows them to take in the aroma. Surafel told me that the coffee is not so heavily caffeinated, so they can drink it all throughout the day, usually with snacks and with friends. He told me that Ethiopians do not put milk and sugar in their coffee.
It's really good.
It tastes different.
It's a lot cleaner or something, and you don't put milk in it or anything?
No.
No sugar.
Only if you're from the city, you add sugar.
Thank you guys for doing it.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
They instead often put spices in their coffee, like nutmeg, salt, and pepper. They'll even put butter in their coffee. In another article, I read that, unfortunately, coffee ceremonies are being performed less and less these days due to the upsetting trend of rising food prices throughout Ethiopia. The article says that injera, Ethiopian bread I mentioned, grew in prices by 40%, where meat grew 50%. However, it was coffee beans, strangely enough, that were among the hardest hit, inflating their prices up by 240%. Coffee ceremonies are central to Ethiopian culture, and it is performed by all classes in all regions. However, the higher prices make it so only those with disposable incomes can partake, and those struggling for money have to sit out of this important social event. From this project, I've learned so much about Ethiopia, its beautiful history, its diverse populations, and the country's current situation around food and food crises. I would one day love to visit Ethiopia and try some genuine Ethiopian coffee with a side of injera alongside my new friends. I hope you too learned a few aspects of Ethiopian culture and its culture around food. Thanks for watching.